Thank you, Toby. I think it's quite exciting to have such a variety of people joining us in this important discussion that we're having around the next hour or so. It's also thanking also all the participants joining us from different places and different time zones and different also professions and backgrounds. That's very welcome and exciting. Also thanking our panelists as well. We have a really stellar panel here joining us for the discussion, and that includes a number of partners from a country like Brazil, Canada, and Portugal that are advancing a lot on these agendas, and also our partners at the European Commission that also work with us on this agenda. So we'll have a stellar panel of policymakers and experts in those areas. And let me just briefly introduce them. We'll have Cristina Mori joining us from Brazil, the Vice Minister for Public Management and Innovation in Public Services, to share some of her perspective from the exciting work in Brazil. We also have Alberto Rodrigues da Silva also joining us from Portugal, the Secretary of State for Modernization and Digitalization in the government of Portugal. And nice to see you again, Alberto. We also have Simon Dreywood, the Executive Director of the Cross-Cutting Service Innovation, Employment and Social Development in Canada. And thank you, Simon, for joining us in your morning, as well as our friend from Brazil. And obviously, Kjartan Johnson, the Head of Unit at SG Reform at the European Commission. We are a very strong partner of the OECD in this work. So we are delighted to have this panel, and I'll do my best to moderate you and also to keep the time so that we are not running over time. But quickly, maybe just before introducing the panel, just a couple of remarks, three remarks from our side in terms of why also we from the OECD we really strongly believe that this type of discussion and this type of agenda is quite central, in particular in the world today. And the report on the global trends of government innovation that we produced last year and that we are also releasing at the beginning of the year really is focusing on public services. And one of the reasons is that there's an important need in different parts of the world to put the public back into public services. And really, the report highlights the importance of making sure that you innovate for results and that you really you're pursuing a number of policy goals through innovation, but really keeping in mind that at the end of the day, it's about improving people's lives. But the report also highlights that governments are pursuing different objectives to innovate government innovation, from improving the efficiency and effectiveness of public services, increasing the public satisfaction with those services, help higher uptake of some services, in particular of those populations that may have more challenges to access those services. And at the end of the day, really ensure fairness and equal treatment in the relationship between governments and citizens in services. And a lot of our work in the OECD really evolves around the issue of trust of citizens in governments, and that is reflected in the ability of governments to provide quality services and promote to inclusion. The second point that we just highlighting that also is quite strong in the report is really that we see across the world and in many OECD and partner countries the emergence of a more strategic and consistent approach to support innovation in public services, and really putting the human element and putting people at the center of those. And that requires like a change in culture in terms of how our bureaucracy operates, so that citizens are really at the center of services and are put back at the center of public services, so that governments are servicing them in important moments of their lives and their life events. And this is an important work that we're carrying at the OECD in particular, and Bruno and other colleagues have been quite instrumental in pushing forward a recommendation of the OECD on human-centric public administrative services that really tries to look at best practices on how governments are reshifting and refocusing their efforts to put citizens at the center. And the last point I would say also that is corresponding to some of the work that we also are pursuing in this conversation is that obviously digital transformation and the eruption of artificial intelligence is also changing a lot of the rules of this game, and it provides tremendous opportunities to have more responsive, personalized, and proactive public services if this is managed responsibly and effectively. So we see that innovation, in particular digital innovation, is also an important factor in those systems. So these are maybe three reasons why we think that this discussion and this agenda is quite particular. And so I will now go a little bit to our panelists to share their insights and their experiences. And I will start with our colleagues on the other side of the Atlantic, and starting with Christina, the Vice Minister for Public Management and Innovation in Public Services, and really to also ask you about the government's experience in terms of why innovation is an important tool to improve public services, and why is that a priority of your government. Christina?
Thank you very much. I'd like to first say that Minister Sterdweck apologizes for not being here, and I'm glad and honored to represent her. It's also an honor to work with Portugal in this working group, and we are happy we have a record of the number of participants in the working group. We expect to build a framework that serves as a reference model for innovation in public administration, with methodologies, methods, and practices that are accessible to everybody. To answer your question, I'd like to reaffirm the importance of public services and of the state itself. During Brazil presidencies on G20, we hosted the States of the Future conference, and that highlighted two premises: the importance of the state not limited to the crisis moments. It also must be ready and prepared to regular and critical issues that we face every day. And the role of the state is not limited to correcting market failures, because its contribution to development and value creation is much broader than that. And additionally, states in developing and underdeveloped countries must cope with challenges international asymmetries. So with this in mind, innovation in public services is not just a priority for us, it's a requirement for Brazil and for any nation committed to improving the lives of the citizens. And innovation must be human-centered, as already said, ensuring that the public services are not merely efficient, but also inclusive and transformative. Innovation is, of course, not just about technology, but about being creative and doing things differently to solve real problems for real people. And that's what we are stating here all the time. So the report that was already mentioned highlights a crucial point, that innovation in public service is no longer optional. It's essential to address complex challenges such as inequality, climate change, and digital transformation. It's essential for building trust as the state addresses the needs of each and every citizen. And that's why innovation is at the heart of the main mission of our ministry, which is to provide the state with instruments to boost human-centered development. So, for example, we built the National Digital Government Strategy that focuses on promoting digital transformation in all Brazilian states and municipalities, ensuring that every Brazilian can easily access digital government services, and that the strategy was developed collaboratively, involving public servants, experts, and users throughout its conception and construction. We mobilized 2,000 people digitally, and people also in the 27 states of Brazil. One of our main achievements in digital government is the GovBR digital identity, which allows 160 million citizens, or 75% of Brazilian population, to access more than 2.5 thousand digital public services in an easy, agile, and transparent way. The digital identity was also a priority during our presidency in G20 last year, when we developed the general principles on digital identity governance in partnership with OECD. And digital transformation is also changing how we follow up on the development of children in our country. We are building a unified early childhood registry to integrate different data sources, such as our social assistance unified registry, daycare, school enrollments, vaccines, food security, all in a single platform. This will enable individualized monitoring by child guardians as well as civil servants, which in turn help create more effective public policies, integrating information and ensuring that quick and personalized access to essential services in strengthening the health, education, and future of our children. Innovation can only happen also with inclusion, and Brazil is taking that into consideration, considering gender and race issues. Our National School of Public Administration prepares women and Black women for leadership positions, also have courses specifically for training men in gender and race, and also have this theme cross in all the civil servant training programs in Brazil to ensure that change is truly structural. So that's our first speech here, and we hope everybody have a very good event today.
No, thank you, Christine. And we were actually delighted from the OECD to partner with you during the G20 presidency, where the issue of digital inclusion was very strong in the agenda, in particular around digital identity, and really delighted. And I wanted to pick up a little bit about your really strong point about inclusion and making sure that innovation helps inclusion, and we can leverage public innovation for social inclusion. And maybe going to our colleague or the secretary Rodrigues da Silva from Portugal, maybe can delve into that point of making sure that innovation is coordinated and integrated, but also contributes to inclusion and not leaving anyone behind or outside public services. And maybe Alberto, if you can share some of the experience of Portugal that has been also quite at the forefront of making sure that digital innovation works for all.
Thank you. Carlos, for your kind introduction. First of all, I want to thank OECD for the invitation to participate in this foremost event. It is my pleasure to join such an interesting webinar today. I think that these events are incredibly valuable. They allow us to share ideas, to learn from each other, in this case about promoting meaningful innovation in public services. I would say that in Portugal, innovation in public service has long been a strategic priority. I agree with Christina that it is not just a strategic, it is a requirement, as she mentioned also. And I would say that this has been a great example, and this work in Portugal has been conducted somehow in the scope of the Agency of Administrative Modernization, our agency that is named AMA or EMA, and in scope of this agency we have what we name like LabX, that is the Center for Innovation in Public Sector. Okay. LabX shows and integrates a crucial mindset for fostering innovation within public administration, mindset focused on experimentation, testing, refining, and continuously improving ideas and solutions. I would say that LabX provides a safe and a stricter process or methodology to innovate. Very briefly, I would say that it involves several phases. The first starts with the research phase by deeply and trying to understanding the real needs and challenge faced by citizens as well as business. Then a co-creation stage by collaborating directly with citizens, researchers, startups and public servants to design the best possible solutions in this approach of collaborative approach. And finally, with the experimentation phase by testing solutions before full implementation, allowing quick adaptation and improvement, or in some cases, just let these experiments put aside from their strategic path. In short, LabX, this Center for Innovation in Public Administration, is a safe space to define, co-create, and test future-focused solutions, ensuring that these innovations truly meet the expectations and needs of real users. So that is, I would say, of course, there are these innovation in public administration are also addressing multiple public entities, but LabX has the core missions to promote innovations and to share the best practice throughout all the public administration. As stated also in our National Digital Strategy, approved last December, we aim for public services to proactively meet the needs of citizens and business, enhancing efficiency and reducing bureaucracy, always putting the users at the center of this process, as also also mentioned by Bruno in their brief introduction. That means that our national strategic goal is to simplify people's life through seamless digital public service, not just by adding a layer of digital to existing process, but in many cases to try to transform this process to simplify them in order to simplify the life of citizens. Indeed, to achieve this, we are committed to offering a seamless, integrated, and user-friendly omni-channel service experience. So I would say that over the past year, we took very important steps and decisions to make this happen, which I would say that some of these details are further available at our website, the digital.gov.pt website that show and shares the national strategy for this digital scope, as well as some legislation and political documents that are important to implement this idea of the omni-channel service approach. Let me first say that last year we launched this truly omni-channel service approach around the gov.pt brand that was also launched last year, and through the integration of the single digital service portal that we named the gov.pt web portal, also a new gov.pt mobile app, and the single citizen phone line, or just citizen line, that is a mobile, not a mobile phone line where any citizens can interact with. And finally, also integrated one-person support channel supported by a broad network of citizen shops and citizen spots throughout Portugal. Second, we introduced a mandatory common reference model named Mosaico. Mosaic provides a set of clear guidelines and a common structure for designing citizen-centric digital services, ensuring consistency across public service offered by multiple and different public entities. Mosaic includes the Agora design system, which is already used across the gov.pt portal and shall be adopted by the remaining public service portals and related applications in Portugal. So having a unified design system is essential to delivering intuitive, accessible, and user-friendly digital services. The third aspect that I would like to address in this omni-channel approach is that we use a technological architecture to simplify citizens' access to these public services. Achieving this goal depends on several building blocks, like the authentication.gov or the IAP technologies. For instance, authentication.gov supports the single sign-on feature, and it is a cross-cutting service that provides user authentication, user authorization among the multiple digital public services. On the other hand, the IAP is the interoperability platform for public administration services and allows support the critical once only principle that is also very important, that prevents citizens from repeatedly having to provide the same information across different systems. The fourth aspect that I would like to stress here is that I would like to highlight another recent tool being developed by EMA, that is the innovation metrics for monitoring and evaluating public service. This is a tool that has been or is in development, but the idea is to help us at different levels evaluate and improve the public service delivered. By using accurate data, we shall better monitor and evaluate the quality of these public services, identify areas for improvement, set benchmark, and continuous innovate. This approach reflects our deep commitment to data-driven innovation and ensures that public service remain accessible, responsive, and efficient. So, to conclude, I would like to stress that this omni-channel service approach aims that citizens can enjoy the same high quality level of experience in their relationship with public services, whether they interact online, or, for example, through the gov.pt portal or the gov.pt mobile app, or through the citizen phone line, or even in person at any of the citizen shops and citizen spots across Portugal. Okay, thank you. So I would say that this is the first statement for this initial question. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you so much, Alberto. I mean, very important point that you underscore, that going digital is not going digital only, but making sure that you have omni channels to access services. And let me turn to Kjartan here also, because there's also an important dimension that is about how you collaborate across borders as well, and how these issues are also requiring international collaboration and also regional integration. And Kjartan, maybe you can share the experiences in particular in the European Union about those issues. Kjartan?
Thank you very much. As we all know, we are living in a time of profound challenges linked to security and defense, climate, trade, erosion of democratic standards. At the same time, in the European Union, we have a number of structural problems that have slowed down our productivity and economic growth. And it's therefore very clear that we need to change in order to regain our competitiveness. And it's also very clear that public administrations can and will need to play a key role in the process. We need to shape a more dynamic and innovative business environment. We need to simplify the procedures. We need to reduce administrative burdens, and we need to create more user-centric public services. And all of that needs to be done, not just in one country, but across the 27 member states. We have, our president has set a name for a 25% reduction in reporting obligations for companies, and that would amount to savings up to 37 billion euros a year. And if you look at the political guidelines and also the competitiveness compass, the public administration is envisaged a very ambitious role to simplify the regulatory environment, to help remove barriers in the single market, to boost EU-financed investments, and to promote skills and quality jobs, and also to coordinate better policies. And as several of the speakers already said, part of overcoming those barriers will require implementing the once-only principle, so that businesses and individuals are only asked once for information, and then the administrations will deal with that data afterwards. We need to have full interoperability between public administrations, also between countries, and that requires that they harmonize standards, for instance, and ensure that the data is machine readable and both semantic and legal operability is ensured. Now, to go specific kind of to the question on unlocking opportunities for cross-country collaboration, it's very clear that the nature of the European Union requires active partnership of all member states, and we see a huge interest from member state public administrations to work together and learn from each other. And I think the seminar you are doing today is one example of the importance of this, and the interest shows that people would like to improve. We launched Compact, our communication to strengthen the European administrative space, to accelerate digital and green transformation and build skills. And we have also, and I would like to echo Mr. Da Silva's comment about digitalization, that it's not enough just to digitize a service. If you have a bad analog process, it will be also a bad digital process if nothing else changes. So it's really important to look at digital government not as a once and done transformation, but a continuous change process. Of course, it's driven by technologies, but we need to make sure that we have system thinking and system approaches to this. And that's why in SecGen Reform and in my unit, we are very keen on prioritizing what we call data-driven public administration. And data-driven public institutions or administrations, they work with data rather than through documents. So instead of having focus on documents where administrations are requiring documents and we exchanging documents and you have to often provide them several times for different purposes, we could provide data, and then the data will be flowing seamlessly between the different layers in the administration, but also between administrations across countries. This requires high quality and exchangeable data, not just technically, but also legally and semantic. So we need to talk about the same terms and operationally. And we believe that this can enable governments to optimize their operations and anticipate and better meet the needs of citizens, develop new services and products, and, which is the topic of today, it can also foster innovation, including across borders. We will have that conversation tomorrow in our expert group for public administration. We're going to discuss examples of Finland, Denmark, and Estonia, who have launched reforms to rethink the business reporting and administrative processes. And through this sharing of data and greater interoperability, they are working to create very impressive financial savings for their businesses. And of course, if you enable savings, you also unleash the potential for increasing productivity. I also want to say that we have recently launched the Life Event study, which focuses on two key administrative processes, namely applying for an identity card as a citizen, or registering a business as an entrepreneur. And we have subcategories for cross-border dimensions of those processes. And now we are still waiting for the results of this, but what is very clear is that although in principle those processes should be rather similar across member states, we see significant variation in service delivery times, ranging from 3 to 30 days. So we will now understand with the study the key bottlenecks. We will try to identify the solutions and promote innovative reforms that can enhance efficiency and effectiveness across all member states. Thank you, Carlos.
No, thank you. That's a lot of important points also, how to ensure that there's collaboration and synergies built between countries, in particular in the context of regional integration, but also that goes further in terms of the approaches to rethinking how governments are providing those services. And maybe going back now to our friends in Canada, to Simon, in terms of also how you have been taking forward some of these issues, in particular, how you really focus on trying to address the challenge of trust in your work through better public services. Simon?
Thank you, Carlos. Thanks for having me. Really glad to be here today. And I'm joining you here from Gatineau, Canada. I'm on the unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe. And I just would like to acknowledge that they are the traditional custodians of our land. And I remain committed to the reconciliation efforts with all of the Indigenous people of Canada. Trust is a very important question for the public service. And in the North American context, one that's in the spotlight today. It's happening in real time. We're being tested, and it's our time to rise to the challenge of demonstrating how we can be a trusted deliverer of important services that our citizens need. When we really focus on trust and developing those components of trust, we really see those changes in behaviors and attitudes of the citizens and stakeholders with which we interact. We'll see things like improvements of engagement. We'll see better levels of compliance with regulations. We'll see adoption of new service innovations such as digitalization aspects that other speakers have already spoken to. But we must be quite aware that trust is fragile and is easily lost. Every interaction with a citizen has the opportunity to really shape the confidence in us and what we can do. And we need to be incredibly careful about how we manage those conversations. I'll give a couple of examples of things that we're dealing with in Canada and how we've taken steps to improve that trust. Certainly coming out of the pandemic, we were caught off guard, off balance by the surge in need for passports, and it created huge pressure for us to meet the demand and create a lot of friction and frustration with the public. And so, first thing, of course, is to get those volumes back under control, and we endeavored to do that. But now I'm very excited to see us taking a next step, a bit of an experiment that I've never seen here in the public service, of actually creating a time guarantee, a money back guarantee on our services, so that if citizens don't get their passports within a certain period of time, we will reimburse their fees. This is the first time we've actually done this. This is taking a cue, what we've seen in obviously private sector organizations, and we're starting to adopt this as part of that understanding that we have skin in the game. The service conversation is not just about how do we get clients and citizens to comply with what the government wants, but we actually have some stake here, and we need to be playing our role effectively. I'm going to pick up on that theme that's come forward so strongly from colleagues and through the documentation, of course, that you all are seeing, and that notion of making sure that human centricity sits at the center of our modernization work. Canada has adopted a set of digital standards, which include within them the need to be both open in the development of our tools, but also invite users to be part of the design and the implementation of our products. We're just in the midst right now. We're launching the biggest transformation to our old age benefits that we've seen in the history of the Canadian government. It's a huge implementation. It puts us on a platform, replacement platform, taking care of technologies which are in some instances multiple decades old. And so, we've been able to keep things together and maintain the integrity of the system. But now we're really moving into something much more modern. And one of the immediate benefits of moving onto this platform has been about reducing the amount of errors. Now, errors sometimes looks like an Excel sheet exercise, but in the real world, errors can mean the loss of essential financial support that people may need to pay their bills, to pay their rent, etc. It could also go undetected for a long time, and there can be overpayments made to people, which then creates a financial pressure on them, which we have to recover. So in reducing those errors, not only are we reducing the administrative burden both on ourselves and our clients, but we're actually emboldening and driving forwards that notion of trust. We are also incredibly mindful that the access to service is not equal across the country. We have a very large country with 6 time zones and a huge change in geographic location of our clients. And so we need to ensure that we are moving forwards with a digital infrastructure build too. And that is critical to the access to service that all Canadians should be able to get wherever they may be. This also needs to be partnered with a notion of digital literacy, not a notion necessarily of having to, everyone has to become a digital whiz, but more the notion that we need to shape our programs so that we can adapt the language, the quality of the interface, so that users have something which is very easy to use, be it through their computer, their smartphone, or whatever other digital device they happen to be using, perhaps their watches. The last thing I'd want to speak about is really designing as much as possible the service interfaces from the perspective of the client. And really, in Canada now, we are shifting away from a product-based view into a life events and life journeys view, so that what brings people into the conversation is not necessarily, hey, I need access to product X or Y. It's I'm dealing with a death in the family. I'm welcoming a child into our family. I'm ready to retire from the workforce. and it brings together and bundles all the services in a way that is intuitive and easy to use. And in the future, in our plans, we're actually going to be doing a greater level of work of integrating all of those services so that there's less need for repeating information, going back to the concepts that we heard from the earlier on about the tell us once sort of mentality. We're not there yet, but we hope to be there very, very soon in the way in which we're developing all of the supports underneath these new innovative approaches to service delivery.
No, thank you, Simon. I mean, I was looking also at some of the discussion in the chat that also being the same point that technology is not a solution in itself. It's an accelerator that allows you maybe to achieve this human centricity that we were discussing. Maybe we'll do a little bit of a look at the survey and the results of the question 2. Maybe you can, Toby, we can share some of the results about that second question. And there you see some of the results. There's a lot of points about the need for strategic vision that is comes quite high, and also again this point that was really shared amongst panelists about how you achieve a human-centric, people-centered design and delivery of public services and approaches that are also coming quite high in the results. I see there that a lot of these dimensions are also reflected by the participants in terms of their priorities to make sure that you leverage innovation for good and for improving lives through better public services. I think there's a little bit of more discussions to be had in terms of how you achieve that, concretely in terms of the skills that are required and the experimental tools and approaches and sandboxes that you can deploy. And maybe that brings me maybe to a quick, a little bit of a quick second round of questions, maybe a shorter. We are starting to run a little bit late on time, but maybe looking at taking advantage of the experience of our panelists to also give the audience some advice, and just to recognize we have a lot of people with us. Around 400 people are online attending this webinar, which is excellent. But maybe precisely for that, we want to have also pick your brains about some of your advice to reformers in other parts of the world, and maybe starting with Christina in terms of this one thing is really to make sure that that innovation, that you can put forward innovation, and it's easy to say, but it's harder to do in practice in our bureaucracies and public administration for various reasons. And what advice would you give for other decision makers looking at innovation in services, and how you can really also make sure that public servants are also all fully on board?
Right, thank you. Yeah, innovation is really indeed challenging, but with courage, collaboration, and a clear vision, it's very possible. So as we are all saying, it's absolutely essential to put people at the center of every decision, from digital transformation to public procurement. And based on these, I'd like to suggest 3 main points: build a culture of experimentation, invest in public servants, and collaborate across sectors and borders. So first, to build a culture of experimentation, we must understand that innovation grows in environments that foster learning. We need to make working environments healthy places so that innovation can flourish. When people trust each other and feel safe to bring your ideas, positions, and oppositions about the ideas of the colleagues, innovations feel more welcome to emerge. So this freedom of inside the working environment is very important. We have an initiative that is the result of this collaboration. It's called Colabora.gov program. It's a federal government collaboration initiative that began with 5 ministries from our 38 minutes 2 years ago. And it centralizes the process of serving personal management, procurement, budget execution in one single agency. So today we have 13 ministers involved, and we will soon reach 20. And the program enhances the efficiency and reduces costs while prioritizing the needs of the citizens and public servants. So it has a commitment to transparency and adaptability. And then when government operations is more responsive and efficient, we can set new standards for us. And that demands a very trustful working environment, not only inside our ministry, but in dialogue with all these ministries. And my second point is invest in public servants who are the backbone of any innovation effort. So inspired by earlier innovation initiative in Brazil for national university entrance exams, the federal public servants our servants came up with an idea that we could develop one of our proudest achievements. We created a unified government hiring process that has reached 1.5 million candidates in its first edition, that was last year. And it decentralized the entrance exams so that it allowed for candidates from 5,555 municipalities of Brazil to enroll and participate in the exam, democratizing access to civil service positions. And this innovation ensures that we are attracting best talents to serve our citizens. My third point is to foster collaboration, both at home within different sectors and federative ways, and different levels of government and across national borders. So there is this program called Contrata Mais Brasil. It's a procurement program that has revolutionized in public procurement by making it more inclusive and efficient. It was inspired by a specific cities project that dared to test a new idea. They achieved amazing results in reducing bureaucracy and opening doors for small and medium-sized companies to participate in government contracts. And we are able now to build on this idea and bring to scale for use at all levels of government. And also, the challenges that we face are global, so we must face them with global solutions. And platforms like these ones are essential for sharing knowledge and best practice. So let us learn from each other and build a future where innovation in public service is not the exception, but the norm.
Thank you. Thank you. That's like a really like a way to look ahead in terms of making sure that innovation happens and happens for good. And Alberto, let me also go back to you in some of these questions. Also, what would be also your advice from a country like Portugal, and also how to make sure that these transformations are not leaving anybody behind or outside, and in particular vulnerable populations or specific populations such as the elders. A lot of countries are growing older in their populations, and that presents a number of challenges.
Thank you, Carlos, again for this excellent question. Indeed, this is a key priority of the government of Portugal and involves several actions on multiple dimensions to ensure that indeed no citizen is excluded to the benefits of this digital transformation process and to the access to these public services that we are discussing currently. Our national digital strategy reflects this commitment, and the goal is simple yet ambitious, to ensure that every citizen, regardless of the location or personal circumstances, has equitable access to digital public services. So this aligns fully with the OECD recommendation on human-centered public administrative services that were already mentioned in the beginning by Bruno, emphasize that service access must be fair and inclusive, regardless of this difference of status, age, gender, race, etc. To ensure that the digital transformation process leaves no one behind, we have defined some complementary actions, and let me refer some of them. I would briefly mention three key aspects. So the first, Portugal is focused on preventing the exclusion of citizens due to the lack of digital literacy or digital skills. As highlighted by the OECD report, digital must not be a barrier, it must be an open door for all. And this is easy to state, but it is not so easy to guarantee in the real in daily life of people. In Portugal, this open door for digital public services is represented by a large network of citizen spots, citizen shops as well. Citizen spots are accessible, welcoming space, providing citizen direct support and mediated support to access those digital public services. Currently, in Portugal, we have over 930 citizen spots across Portugal, assisting citizens in person with over 60 digital services. For example, from renewing ID cards and driver license to request legal certificates and many, many more, of course. Citizen spots are not just service centers, they are becoming to be learning hubs where citizens receive personalized guidance, helping them gradually gain confidence to use such digital service autonomously. So that is one of the objectives that we have. With the launch of the National Digital Strategy last December, as I mentioned before, citizen spots will host awareness sessions and provide learning resources to help citizens, especially those with less digital skills. For instance, learn how to access digital public services and to understand that they exist and how we can manage them, but also use safe authentication features, namely the official government authentication.gov building block that I mentioned before as well. And for example, browse in the internet safely and avoid online fraud, as it is one of big problems that our society is facing currently. The second aspect that I would like to mention is about how to allow also refer the OECD report that states that public service can and should serve as platform for public participation. In this respect, our strategy places civic participation as another top priority. And traditional methods of participation have often struggled to engage citizens, especially those with not so well educated in this digital society. To address this challenge, we established the civic participation through digital technologies as one of our flagship initiatives defined in this strategy. Instrumental to this initiative is participa.gov.pt, that is the National Civic Engagement Platform. Through secure digital identification and blockchain technology, citizens can transparently propose and vote on ideas on different subjects and policies, but also to monitor public decisions. A concrete example connecting civic participation and public service delivery is the well-known Portuguese Simplex program, which is focused on the simplification of the user experience, the mitigation of unnecessary bureaucracy, and the integration of digital solutions by design. Furthermore, Simplex empowers citizens to propose new ideas or to vote on ideas that directly reduce administrative burdens and shape the future of public service. The third aspect that I would like to still to mention is the idea that to ensure that no one is left behind in this digital society, Portugal is also implementing other concrete measures under the National Digital Strategy. Very briefly, one of these measures is related to digital skills curriculum, enable citizens to invest in their digital skills, guided by a certified framework and clear learning path, depending on the original levels of each person and the objectives that they may have. The second action is listening to citizens to identify barriers to civic participation, public policy transparency, selecting key priorities areas and developing an action plan based on these insights and these inputs from the civic participation. The third action that I may mention is the idea to reduce bureaucracy in the interaction of business with the public administration. So there are several incentives and measures to reduce this bureaucracy that the companies typically when they have to interact with the public administration. So these are 3 concrete actions taken from the broad national digital strategy that defines our vision for Portugal, for transform Portugal until 2030. A strategic vision that highlights Portugal's commitment to a digital transformation that shall be inclusive and accessible to all citizens. And I think that considering these 3 aspects are very important in order to try to involve all or most of the people in this digital transformation process. Okay. Thank you.
No, thank you, Secretary of State, and really, I mean, the experience of Portugal in the last decade in those areas have been quite impressive and has impressed a lot. And also inspired a lot of other countries that are also here in asking for more information about Portugal experience. Let me go back to Kjartan about an issue that you raised in terms of also the context in which we live nowadays, in particular the budget constraints and the issues around less resources to deliver on those objectives, in particular as we go forward, and in some countries like in Europe, for example, where you have other claims and other needs on the budget. And innovation can always be seen as a nice to have type of addition, but to the modernization of government. But what would be your advice to make sure that this is actually also maintained as a core function and a core contribution to modernization efforts? And then just like also, just if you can start to be short, because we're running out of time. We already went over time, so I'm sorry to ask you also to try to have you comment short and your advice to the rest of the audience are sharp.
Yeah, I'll try. Thank you. But let me begin by challenging a common held view about innovation in public administration. I think very often we see it very narrowly through the lens of technology and seeing digitalization as a primary force of change. But innovation really goes much more beyond enhancing efficiency or automating processes. We need to really reimagine how services are designed and how services are delivered to meet the evolving needs of citizens and businesses. We need to put citizens and businesses at the heart of the service delivery. We need to understand their needs, and we need to understand the barriers for providing this seamless access. So now I wanted, because we were asked to do this in our prep, to be inspired from the feedback from the audience, and I thought I would improvise a little bit here. That there was this point about strategic view to strengthen services, and I've been sort of reflecting a little bit. So this is my personal point that doesn't necessarily represent the Commission, but I'm just wondering whether we could make public procurement, which is 14% of our GDP in the EU, so 14%, it's a lot of money that we are talking about. And could we make public procurement more innovative by using and taking inspiration, for instance, from design competitions that is very common practice in when we are making big buildings? Why not having also design competitions before we draft the technical specifications, so that we could identify innovative solutions that perhaps some of the startups could offer, instead of only going for the tried and tested and known solution. So that's just one I thought I should respond to the panel, to the questions that we got in the chat. Now let me add that in terms of innovation, it's super important to talk about leadership, because we need that transformation. We need a change in organizational culture, and leaders obviously must embrace change, and they must empower their teams. I think Christina talked about this earlier. It's important to cultivate an environment where continuous learning and adaptation are embedded in our governance. Now I hesitate, but as we don't have time, I don't want to talk about the importance of also combining reform with investment, so that the reforms can make investments run smoother, and investments can also often reinforce the reforms. But I'll drop that, Carlos, because you're running out of time. But maybe just to say one word about a particular example of that in Latvia, where we have actually worked together with you. In Latvia, we helped create an innovation lab in the state chancellery, and our technical support instrument helped bring together these multiple policy labs into one and consolidate working methods and ensure needed skills. And we then, from the Recovery and Resilience program, we provided financial support to keep the lab running. And today, this lab has demonstrated its importance for policymaking and service delivery and innovation in Latvia, with 14 innovation sprints that helped co-create solutions on simplifying tax forms, the management of health emergencies, and better support for victims of crime. I thought I should use the opportunity to just thank OPSI for the support and our partnership. And with this, I will conclude my comments. Thank you.
No, thank you, Jacques, and also thank you for the recognition of this important work that OPSI is driving as well from the OECD, and maybe also just like flag this important point that you made about how governments are procuring innovation and trying to find new ways to do that through working with GovTech startups, for example. So that's an important thing that we see. And maybe just like going now to you, Simon, for maybe the last word around the last pieces of advice that you could give to the audience in terms of how you make innovation stick and deliver results from your experience.
Thanks so much. Always the challenge of going last, but I want to build a little bit on what Kjartan talked about a little bit earlier around efficiency in public service. And I think I absolutely agree with you 100%. Efficiency should not be only around savings. So first point is, what is efficiency and how can we use it? We should be looking at it. Yes, savings may be part of the formula, but it also needs to be around how can you improve the quality of your products? Are they more accurate? Are they more timely? So we're looking at things such as sludge reports now as a way of looking at not only how much inefficiency there are, but how do these products actually reach our clients and how well are they integrated into their world where they may need to use them otherwise. They may need to be interacting with other actors, banks, local communities, etc. And we need to make sure that we're thinking about not just the end user, but how they are involved in other parts of their lives. We also need to make sure that efficiency is not thought about only from the inside out. I'll give you a quick pet peeve of mine. Not a big fan of parking apps. You know, when you go and park your car downtown, and every time you go, you have to download a new app onto your phone. Yeah, I get the efficiency side from the parking operator's perspective, but from the client perspective, it's frustrating, it's time consuming, and it actually diminishes the trust in the client experience. So digitalization, that's an example, I think, of digitalization for the sake of digitalization, efficiency for the sake of efficiency, but doesn't necessarily develop a very strong client experience. But in the real world, what we're looking at now is looking at things where we really are trying to measure effectively through our surveys, which we are developing on clients, and instant feedback, so we can start really understanding what are the pain points and pressures that are being created, maybe inadvertently, on clients when we put forward what we think is the great digital solution or the process solution or the policy solution, and how it may be inadvertently negatively affecting our clients. So we get that immediate feedback and we get into an iterative process of correcting those problems as early as possible. And the last piece is for a bit of myth busting again, going back to the framing of Kjartan before. I don't believe that innovation always has to be the new thing. Sometimes we built things a long time ago and we've forgotten about them. And so that notion of sometimes building up, we did a few years back a big push to develop proactive involvement into benefit programs, especially into pensions, and it kind of frittered to the background. And now we're looking at this and saying, with the technology we have today, we can put that kind of process onto steroids and really get as many people into the programs where they don't even need to apply. They may be coming in through another channel or through another program and have automatic access to these benefits and services. And so more and more that we can do that, build on the things which already exist and bring those forwards again in a new light with the new technology or new processes. We need to sometimes use that as part of our approach towards innovation.
No, thank you, Simon. Again, thank you for everyone that has joined us online. We still more than 350 people online. Thank you for this exciting sort of insights and also advice that we got from our fabulous panel. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Alberto. Thank you, Shartan. Thank you, Simon. It was really an excellent discussion. And also, we're delighted from the OECD to be partnering with you in different ways on taking that forward. So let me just close this panel and also give back the last word to Bruno, who has been also driving this report forward and this work forward from our team at the OPSI. So thank you again. Thank you for everyone, and back to you, Bruno.
Well, thank you so much, Carlos, for such a challenging moderation work and for keeping everyone engaged way after the time we planned to close the session. Thank you so much for all of you for staying with us, in particular for the speakers for bringing such exciting, I will also say challenging directions that we really need to continue following. I'm not searching for an alibi, but the fact that we are still here after the time's end shows the interest and the relevance of this discussion, and also ask us for doing more than just single-shot initiatives like this event. And with that in mind, we will invite you to join us, Community in the Making. Many of you already registered for that community while registering for this event. If you have not done that, my colleagues will share with you in the chat the way for you to register for that Community in the Making. And this is extremely important because Portugal and Brazil are co-sharing a very recent working group on innovation public services. It's a working group that gathers 22 countries plus the European Commission, a group of very committed national delegates that really want to exchange learnings, keep the pace in ensuring that innovation is used with a purpose and to generate impact. And by joining this community in the making, again, we hope that you can provide strong support to those discussions, keep fueling them, and also, why not, ensuring that all these strong recommendations that have been put together by the OECD, all the inspiring work being done by these governments can continue to operate, this time in your own context. Thank you again for joining us.